Hello everyone, on today's episode of the 1 Year Life Challenge, we're going to talk about voodoo dolls and your own personal golem. Hello everyone, I'm so grateful to be able to deliver this content to you today, which was something that I believed in a few years ago, which was incredibly powerful, and I was only reminded by my friend Chris recently that it was a story I told that had a massive effect on him. So what we're going to talk about today is beliefs, manifestation, voodoo dolls and golems. Great, right? You're excited? So stick around. As always, I'm going to begin with a quote on the subject, and that quote is, "Everything you imagine is real." Pablo Picasso. Everything you imagine is real. Pablo Picasso brought into life some of the most amazing imagery. It was started as a belief in his head. Everything begins as a belief. The computer you're watching on this right now began as a belief, a thought in someone's head, and that thought manifested through silicon and plastics into the computer or the TV screen that you're watching this on now. It's understanding the power of beliefs is very simple. Once you get that the plane that you're flying into your holiday was a thought in someone's head before it was created, you start to see the power of thoughts. I'm going to begin with a story, actually, to start this video. And the story is of a rabbi who was living in Judea. And it was about 100 AD, and this rabbi was consistently, as many of the Jewish authorities were at the time, was consistently harassed by the Romans who occupied the area. And the Romans, as we all know, were quite brutal, especially in the way they handled the occupied states. And he was, quite often abused, had his items stolen, and was beaten quite often by Roman officers. And he really developed a hate, like a really full-on hate for these Romans, as you can imagine would be normal at the time. And he was a sculptor. He used to sculpt in his spare time. So what he began to do was to sculpt an image of a person, and every day he'd sculpt the image of the person, and his hatred for the Romans would be there, and he'd use it as a vehicle to sort of forget about his hatred for the Romans. And he started creating this figurine, which is a mud creature that we call a golem. And he found a spell, and a spell would bring life to this creation. So he performed the magical spell and brought the golem to life. The golem came to life, and as it was born of hate and had no soul, it was of pure hatred because the imagination, the manifest belief of the creator was of hatred, and the golem killed the rabbi immediately. Now, that's a pretty sad story, right? However, what does it illustrate? It illustrates, and a golem is a real, when I say a real thing, it's a traditional story, especially in Hebrew cultures. And what does that story illustrate? It illustrates that what you think can become real, but what you think that doesn't serve you will destroy you. And the more you think about it, the more you give life force to the things that can destroy you. So the golem, which is an anthropomorphic creature which is brought to life by clay, it's been around since medieval writings and early, sort of first century Palestine, is something that really illustrates this, that you can manifest. Now the story, obviously, you're not going to make a mud creature that comes alive, but how many times have people come into your life that have created a lot of problems, just like a golem, that seem to reflect the way you see the world? So how do we get out of this situation where we're constantly creating golems? Well, the first step is we need to understand the brain and beliefs. The brain, this is important to understand, the brain does not understand the difference between a vividly imagined event and a real event. It doesn't know. It's a thought-generating machine. And when you vividly imagine an event, it's real to the brain. An example of this is when bioscientists study athletes, where they put heart rate monitors on them, they get them to wear their running gear, and then they fire a starter's gun, and they measure their heart rate, and their heart rate goes through the 100-meter sprint. They're not in a 100-meter sprint, they're sitting in a lab, but their brain doesn't know, and it's already fired off the mechanisms. We all know that sometimes when we've got a big meeting or a big speech to give or something that's important, our heart starts racing as we think about it, but we're not even at the event. So your brain does not understand the difference and will behave as if the event's there. Quite often it's been said, I think Mark Twain once said, I've been through some horrible, terrible, devastating things in my life, and a few of them actually happened. Isn't that true? Sometimes we live these beliefs, they hurt us before we even get there. Number two, understand your own personal golems. What are the beliefs, the strong beliefs that you have that are reflected, that don't serve you, that can destroy you? Quite often right now, probably the most topical things, I hear so much hatred directed towards Muslims, and obviously there's groups of Muslims directing hatred towards other religions. And what's manifesting? Death, violence, anger and destruction. The fundamentalist Islamic, for example, ISIS state has created an enemy state in their allies, I guess, and the allies are bombing them and killing them. But the allies have turned these guys into demons, and those demons are killing them. And it's these beliefs, these constant beliefs on this of division. It's creating these. Now that's a global scale, that's from the collective unconscious, but what's in your life? Do you have any prejudices or anger, people in your life that have hurt you, that you keep directing anger at, who keep directing bad things back at you? What's your personal golem? Know what your personal golem is and remove its power. Number 3, understand the difference between manifestation and fantasy. So quite often people ask me if I read The Secret, and I have read The Secret, and they ask me, what do you think of it? And I think that it is rubbish. I'm sorry. I think it's good, and I think it's a great way to explore the mind, but a lot of it is rubbish. The idea that you can just think something constantly and it will ultimately serve you removes your power. Quite often what you think about takes you out of the moment and creates more golems than it does Mercedes. It creates more hatred or frustration than it does create houses on the waterfront. Now it is nice to keep thinking about a house on the waterfront, but really I've seen in most people that creates frustration, an ungrateful nature, that they don't like their house that is on the waterfront because they're always thinking about this other house. And how do you get a house on the waterfront? You be present. Let's say you need $1 million to get a house on the waterfront. You're not going to do that by sitting there and wishing. You're going to do that by being great at your job, by being passionate, by connecting with people, by showing them value and them giving you value back in the form of currency. Your power is in the moment. When you leave the moment, good or bad, whether you leave the moment to think about something you hate or leave the moment to think about something you love, you've lost all your power. Every night you go to sleep and you have vivid dreams, whether you remember them or not. That's your time for visualization. Be present. Allow the karmic event of nature to come and work with you. Visualization, I feel, is also people not understanding where their power lies. They believe that they're in control. They believe that this little human body, human brain just needs to focus on something and it will come to them. Well, you're not your human body. You're not your brain. You are your environment. You are the stars. You are the earth. You are everything. You're the awareness of that. So what the earth brings you is what you deserve. You might not get what you want, but you always get what you need. I would suggest that if you are quite often thinking, projecting in the way The Secret talks about, I would say that maybe look at spending more time being present and appreciating what you have and comparing the two. I mean, if being present and appreciating what you have doesn't make you happy, by all means throw it out the window and start thinking about a Mercedes. My personal story says that the Mercedes, and know how much you think about the Mercedes, and even if you get one, there's no happiness there. That's the other thing about The Secret, which is interesting, is we're all assuming that this Mercedes or this dream house will make us happy. But when you manifest it, is that really true? I mean, you just need to ask yourself, ask Heath Ledger or Whitney Houston or Michael Jackson if money made them happy. And those guys should know because they had lots of it, so they had great experience. Everything you imagine is real. Pablo Picasso, I'm so glad that he graced the earth, taught us something very valuable. Destroy your golems, move forward, be present, and allow your environment to bring to you not what you want, but what you need. I can't wait to see you tomorrow. Until then, goodbye.